Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at how reading impacts the brain.
Like physically changes it. It's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I think a lot of people know that reading is good for them, but
But they don't know why.
yeah, exactly. And so we're hoping to break that down
Yeah, explore all those neural pathways.
and give you some cool tips to make reading even more impactful.
Absolutely. We're going to make you the best reader you can be.
I like it. So to start, I think it's important to acknowledge that reading is a relatively new thing for humans.
Super new. Like evolutionarily speaking, our brains were not designed to read.
And yet we do it.
We do,
Yeah.
and we do it well. It's amazing how adaptable the brain is.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into that a little bit. So, isn't it crazy how fast we go from seeing words on a page to understanding their meaning? It feels instantaneous.
It does, right? But there's so much going on behind the scenes.
Right. So, what's happening there? Literally in my brain.
Okay, picture this. You see the word, let's say tree, right?
Okay, tree.
Light bounces off the page, it hits your eye, and that signal travels all the way to the back of your brain, the visual cortex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your brain starts processing the basic shapes of the letters. Like it's not even thinking about meaning yet, just shapes.
I see.
And then that information, it gets sent to a different part of your brain called Wernicke's area.
Wernicke's area. Okay, what happened?
That's like your brain's dictionary. It decodes the sounds of the letters, right? Connects them to the meaning of the word tree.
Mm.
But it doesn't stop there. To actually speak the word tree or even just think it to yourself, that information goes to Broca's area.
Another area.
Yeah. And Broca's area, that's all about speech production.
Wow. Okay, so it's like my brain is doing this whole relay race to just read a simple word.
Yeah, pretty much.
No wonder it can feel like a workout sometimes.
Oh, it is a workout. And just like hitting the gym builds muscle, regular reading, it strengthens all those neural pathways, right? They get faster, they get more efficient. It's like training your brain.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read was talking about a study where people read just 30 pages a night,
Mm-hmm.
and that resulted in increased activity in the left temporal lobe.
Oh, that's a fascinating study.
And wasn't that study also linking that part of the brain to memory?
Exactly. That's right. The left temporal lobe, think of it like a filing cabinet for memories.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And the more you read, the more you're working out that part of your brain. So you're potentially helping yourself remember things better. And it could even be like warding off age-related cognitive decline, which is pretty amazing.
So, okay, instead of doing Sudoku, I could just curl up with a good book and get, the same brain benefits.
Essentially, it's a much more enjoyable way to exercise your brain, I would say.
Way more enjoyable, I agree. I'm on board with that. But, it's not just about memory, right? I feel like reading makes me more, in tune with people's emotions, too.
Right.
I can empathize with them better.
Oh, that's a great point. Reading can totally make you more emotionally intelligent.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, think about it. When you're reading, especially fiction, you are stepping into the shoes of all these different characters, right? You're experiencing their joys, their sorrows, their struggles.
Like living 1,000 lives.
Exactly. And by doing that, you're basically training your brain to recognize and understand different emotions, both in yourself and in others.
Yeah, that's so true. I remember when I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird.
Classic.
I really felt Scout's, confusion and fear as she was navigating the complexities of racial prejudice in her town.
Right.
And that definitely gave me, a new perspective on things.
Exactly. And that's the magic of it, right?
Yeah.
By living through these characters' experiences, you're basically giving your brain a workout in empathy.
I love that. A workout in empathy. That's a great way to put it.
And that can help you in so many areas of your life, right? Like understanding your friends better, being a more supportive partner, just navigating the world with a little more compassion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it can make you better at handling your own emotions, too.
Oh, totally. I feel like reading helps me, deal with stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an escape.
Right. And there's actually science behind that. Studies show that reading, especially fiction, it can actually lower your heart rate and blood pressure. It's like calming your whole system down.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I'm feeling, overwhelmed, curling up with a good book, it's like I'm hitting the pause button on everything.
It is. It gives you that space to step outside your own head for a bit. And when you come back, you've got a fresh perspective, maybe some new ideas on how to handle things.
I like that. Fresh perspective. One of the sources we looked at mentioned active engagement with the text. And like, I'm a big highlighter.
Hmm.
I make notes. It helps me remember what I read.
Active engagement is so important. It's the difference between just letting the words wash over you and really absorbing them. Like, think of watching a movie versus, like, studying a textbook.
Right. One you kind of forget, the other sticks with you.
Exactly. When you're actively engaging, highlighting, making notes, you're building those neural connections. It's like you're telling your brain, hey, this is important. Remember this.
I've also started using this service called Readwise.
Hmm.
It's really cool. It like takes all my Kindle highlights and puts them into a daily digest. So I'm constantly like revisiting these little bits of wisdom.
That's awesome. It's like having a personal tutor, right? Reminding you of the good stuff.
It is. It really is. And it doesn't have to take up a ton of time.
Nope. Even a few pages a day can make a difference.
Right. So for people who they're busy, they're like, I don't have time to read. What would you say are some like practical tips for making it a habit?
Start small. Don't pressure yourself to read a whole book in a day. Even 5, 10 pages, it's better than nothing. And be consistent.
Like exercise.
Exactly. It's about building that habit. And make it enjoyable. Find what you like to read. Don't force yourself to read something you hate.
I love audiobooks. Like when I'm walking the dog, doing chores, it's like sneaking in some brain food.
Multitasking at its finest. And don't forget libraries. So many free resources.
Oh, yeah. They're amazing.
So many worlds to explore.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on something we mentioned earlier about creating a repository of knowledge from our reading. One of the sources talked about like keeping a journal or a document where you jot down key takeaways, your own reflections.
That's a fantastic idea. It's like creating your own personal encyclopedia.
Yeah. And the act of writing it down, it helps you remember it even better.
Absolutely. It reinforces those connections.
And for those of us who like live in the digital world, there are tools like Readwise that we talked about. It's like having a digital assistant for your reading.
Yeah. It curates and resurfaces those important insights, keeps them fresh in your mind.
Yeah. It's like building mental muscle memory, but for ideas.
I love that mental muscle memory.
So yeah, don't just read it, own it, make it a part of you. It's amazing to think that just by reading, we can like rewire our brains.
Right. It's like one of the coolest things about the brain, it can change and adapt. That's called neuroplasticity.
So the more we read, the more we're like shaping our own neural pathways, making new connections.
Exactly. You're literally building new roads in your brain. And the more you travel those roads, the smoother they get, the faster you can get where you're going.
And those roads become like the paths for our thoughts, our feelings, even how we react to things.
Totally. It's all connected.
So reading can like fundamentally change how we see the world, how we understand ourselves.
It can. That's why it's so powerful.
Wow. So we really do have the power to like shape our own minds just by what we choose to read.
We do. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
So to sum it all up, reading isn't just like a fun hobby. It's a way to like grow as a person, keep our minds sharp, understand like what it means to be human.
Exactly. And connect with the world, learn new things. It's like unlocking the full potential of your brain.
And anyone can do it. It doesn't matter like how old you are, what you like to read. There's something out there for everyone.
So go explore, pick up a book, dive into a new world. You might be surprised what you discover.
And if reading really shapes who we are, what kind of thinker do you want to be?
That's the question, isn't it? Maybe the answer's waiting for you in your next book.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into reading and the brain.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into something awesome. Happy reading, everyone.